Hey, what's up everyone? Mike White here. I got a little Roundnet history video for you. As most of you know, if you follow this scene in the last year or so, Origin Impact was a top 5 team last year. Chris Hornacek, Patrick Drucker of Chicago. We thought they were going to be playing this year. They were on the first 2 power rankings, but it turns out that Chris Hornacek is actually going to be joined by Dylan Fogarty, and they're going to bring back Origin Vengeance, which was a 2016 team that did pretty well. And for those that are new to the scene, you might not know the history behind Fogarty or Origin Vengeance, so I thought it'd be good to get a little brief history of this Roundnet team and these Roundnet players. So it's going to start back in 2014. So Dylan Fogarty played with his friend Mike Hammersley as Koala Hunters. They went to 2 Illinois tournaments in the late summer, I believe, 2014, won both of those, then headed down to the first ever regionals. If you didn't know, regionals and nationals started in 2014. There were actually only 3 regions, East, Central, and West Central had a lot of states covered in there. So the Midwest at the time was in Central, so they went down to, I believe, Nashville for Central Regionals, got 4th place. They lost to Life from Mars, which was the top team at the time, combination of Kyle Kirkman of RIP and John Schumacher of Shrimp and Grits. And they also lost to V2 in the 3rd place game. It was actually Patrick Drucker's team at the time, Patrick Drucker and Tom Cortese. At the time, the top 3 from each regional would make up the 9-team power pool at Nationals, so they just missed out on the power pool spot. But they did go to Nationals anyway, and again, they lost to Life from Mars, but this time in the round of 16, so placed tied for 9th. Start of 2015, Fogarty formed the first ever Roundnet club, Origin Roundnet Club, and they changed their team name from Koala Hunters to Origin Elite. At the time, V2 changed their team name to Origin Dominance, and then we also had Chris Hornacek and Mike Zagoni as Origin Unleashed. There were other Origin teams, but those were kind of the big 3 at the time. So Elite started the year with a 2nd place at Atlanta Tour Stop to Nashburg. They then won the Chattanooga Tour Stop. They got 3rd at the Nashville Grand Slam, lost to Chico. Won the Lancaster Tour Stop. They got 3rd place at Summer Spike, and they lost to Moist there. They got 3rd at the Naperville Tour Stop. They lost to Chico. So at this point, they lost to Nashville once earlier in the year, lost to Chico a couple times, lost to Moist. So solid, and they had a lot of the wins, a lot of wins on the year. There were a lot. I feel like there were a lot more independent tournaments. They were hitting all of the independent tournaments in the Midwest and some of the Southeast, and they were winning a lot of those. And we actually didn't have power ranks at the time, but they were in that 2 through 5 spot. And we didn't really know because they didn't play West Coast teams besides Chico, so we didn't know they faced against Handsome Beavers and teams like that. But then comes the Chicago Grand Slam, where they were, the 2nd favorite, I'd say, after Chico. There was also TPCV was there, so everyone wanted to see how Elite would match up against them. But actually, that's when I peaked around it. Nick Stanton and I took them out in the quarters in 3 games. So they didn't do as well there. Regionals, they got 2nd behind Monkey Business, Peter John Showalter, and Seth Showalter. And then at Nationals, they lost in the round of 16 to Buns and Guns West Coast team, Cody Thompson, Austin Fraker. Buns and Guns came out of from the non-power pools. And they were a really good team. So that's just kind of how it works. It wasn't a terrible loss for them by any means. But unfortunately, at the time, the top 8 teams at Nationals got Elite, so they missed out of the Elite package when they were clearly, at least in my opinion, a top team for that year. So they missed out on Elite, which kind of sucks. But okay, going back earlier in the year, Fogarty and Hornacek played in a tournament together in Virginia, I believe, and won it. Then that fall, they play another tournament together, get 2nd to Nashburg, and then they play the Flurry together, which, if you don't know, was a big competitive tournament in Connecticut. A lot of teams came out. They got a big win there. They beat Skylar Bowles, Cody Thompson, Los Chicos there. They lost to the winners, Sean Boyer and Peter John Showalter, which was completely fair. But they were looking really good, hitting really hard. And at the time, they were called Toast. So Toast played another tournament in January in Denver. They came in 2nd to Chico. Then they officially announced that they were going to be playing together. The team name is Origin Vengeance. So Vengeance started the year traveling a lot down south. They got some wins at some small tournaments down there. They then took first at the Charleston Tour Stop. They got second at the Dallas Tour Stop to Ian Golombeski, Skylar Bulls. Then they won the Santa Monica Grand Slam, which was huge. But what happened there is Strange Embrace beat Chico in the semifinals, and then they beat Strange Embrace. So they were, I believe they were 2 at the time, or they might have been 3, because Beavers and Buns and Guns held the 2 spot each at a certain point. So then they won a couple more tour stops after that. They won Nashville, they won DC, then came the Atlanta Grand Slam, which again they won, but they didn't beat Chico. They beat 2 guys and Monkey Business, but Monkey Business is the team that beat Chico. So it's kind of this weird situation where, like, Strange didn't have enough wins to be number 1. Monkey Business wasn't even a team. It was Safi. Vengeance was the only team that had enough wins to be number 1, but they didn't beat Chico, so they couldn't take that spot. So next weekend at Camp Birch Hill, which is one of the most competitive tournaments of all time, at least if you consider talent per team, because there are 32 teams and tons of talent. And they got the matchup versus Chico, and it was kind of like, yeah, if they win this, or like if they beat Chico, or if they just win this tournament, because that would be, 3 non-tournament wins for Chico, where Vengeance wins, but Chico and Vengeance didn't match up, and Chico kind of beat them pretty good. There's footage of that. Also, there's some great footage from that Central Regionals I mentioned, and some other stuff, so check the description for a lot of old highlight videos and film. So then Vengeance didn't get their win there. After that, they had some, not a bad end of the year, but it was different. So they, Summer Spike, they got tied for 5th. They lost to Strange in the quarters. They ended up getting revenge on them and winning the Boston Grand Slam a month later or so. So that was pretty good, but they also got 4th at St. Louis. They lost to Preston Buys and Josiah Zimmerman, and then they got 2nd or 3rd at the Indianapolis Tour Stop, losing to Peter John Showalter and Joel Graham. So kind of, I guess, not really crazier results later in the year or worse results, but some losses to other teams and kind of maybe lost that where the 2-team spot. Safi did end up moving to the 2 spot in August. So Chicago Grand Slam comes up. It was their worst number placement to date. Maybe Camp might have been there too. Not sure if Camp was T5 or T9. But they lose to Buddy Hammond and Josh Bissonnette in the round of 16. Buddy Hammond of the Handsome Beavers. If you don't know Josh Bissonnette, he plays, I believe, shortstop for Baylor University baseball. So he's an athlete and can dabble in roundnet sometimes. So it actually wasn't a crazy bad loss. Then regionals, they win regionals that year. Nationals, this was kind of unfortunate. They lose to their clubmates Origin Force in the round of 32. So disappointing end of the year. They ended up finishing Dylan at 7 and Chris at 16 in the player rankings. So solid, but again, kind of like a good start of the year where they're building momentum and it kind of falls apart at the end. So then after that, Dylan has another big flurry, plays with Sean Boyer, and they win. He's looking really good, but then announces he's going to take a step back from the game. Like I said, 2017, Chris Hornacek and Patrick Drucker played together, got a bunch of wins, National Grand Slam to win. 2nd at regionals, round of 16 at nationals, lost to easily Doug. And end of the year, I believe at 7, but they were top 5 for most of the year. We got up to number 2 at a time. We thought they were going to play together, but they're not. We got to backtrack. Dylan did play a tournament, East Regionals. He came back because Matt Bonin of Ordinary Chaos couldn't attend Midwest Regionals, needing a partner. And he looked like he didn't miss a beat. They placed 3rd. He was hitting really hard. He hits very low. They beat Hilltop. They beat Nashburg. Lost to Ruby and Anchored. Solid day. He looked really good. Dylan and Chris played a tournament together in Long Beach. They got 2nd to Preston Buys and Skylar Bulls. Again, looking very good. And then Chris this year has done well. Got 2nd at Huntington with Ian. 3rd at San Diego with Ian Golombeski. So expectations are high for Dylan and Chris coming into this weekend because they're going to be playing Atlanta. They're going to be on the power rankings come Friday. Expectations are high. I'm excited to see how they do. And I did hear from someone, I'm not going to say who this was, but there was a quote. Dylan is the top 5 player, and he hasn't even been playing. So, we'll see how that goes. And so that's pretty much a brief history of Origin Vengeance and Dylan Fogarty. Oh, I forgot to mention kind of the big thing surrounding them is there was a villainous kind of vibe with them. One, because they were winning. They were going to regions and winning their tournaments, and it was kind of annoying, to be honest. Like, at the time, that's how I felt. But also, they were very intense. You know, Chris has his Let's Goes, but Dylan was very intense as well. And when they're both intense, it's really something. So that's a big thing, and we kind of wonder how people are going to feel about them this season as they come together. But they should be good, and it's exciting. So I hope you enjoyed this brief history, a little Roundnet history. If you want more stuff like that, let me know. Besides that, I hope you get ready for Atlanta this weekend. Tons of content coming up about that. And thanks for listening. See you next time.